What's up, team? Joe here, back at the studio. We're going to do another little drum mix production breakdown today, this time with a band called Mild Mannered, some good friends of mine. They, we had a really, really fun time in the studio, despite their super tough appearance and personas. They are absolute sweethearts. So we had a lot of fun. Um, Kind of in the pre-production planning phase, one thing that they were pretty adamant on is that they wanted the three songs that they did with me to be a little bit more organic and just they just kind of wanted them to sound a little bit more like themselves. So that's the approach that we took. So there's not a really the three songs are pretty simple on the production side of things. We didn't really go too crazy, but sometimes that can also be the most complicated part of doing this is just relying on a good recording and getting it right from the start. So let's take a peek, and I'll show you what we did. I'll just play the drums here for you. So the first thing, as these are playing, you can take a look. Um, One thing that super duper helps me out here is the drummer Tyler. I mean, you can just look at the waveforms and see how consistent everything is. To all you drummers out there, that makes a world of a difference. Um, and by a world of a difference, I mean that can literally just, you know, get you 70% of the way there. Um, and I hate to say that that's rare, but it's rare. So Tyler, thank you, Tyler. So that's the first thing I want to kind of point out about this is just how consistent everything is. Didn't really have to do a whole lot of quantizing or pushing stuff around because it already was pretty in time. So again, Tyler, thank you. Let's start here at the kick drum. I'll solo it for you. So kind of your standard rock bass drum. You can look at my plugin list right here. I've only got 3 plugins on there. I'll take them all off. You can kind of hear it as it was recorded. Actually, what I'll do, and you'll see me do this a lot, I've got a bunch of plugins on the drum bus. I'm going to turn this off. So this is pretty much as it was recorded. So pretty standard, dead, rock and roll bass drum. This is a Sonar SQ2 kick that I've got here at the studio. I think of 22 by 14. And if you want to get real geeky, it's the Medium Beach that I used, or not I used, but that I had Tyler use. Okay, I'm going to turn the drum bus back on because I'm going through this big phase right now where I'm mixing into buses. And I've really been liking it. So a lot of the decisions that I made were in response to this drum bus. So let's start. So pretty classic move here. Paultec, turn it on. Just adding a lot of that low end, and I'm actually attenuating some of the high end. So that's what I'm doing there. On to the next, we've got the Pulsar Modular P450 EQ. I freaking love these EQs. I love these plugins. They're super cool. All I'm doing here, 30 hertz, knocking out. I don't know if these are dBs or what their measurement is, but negative 0.5. And then again at 75 hertz, also negative 0.5. I'll turn it on. Also high passing at 30. So I'm actually taking some of the low end out that I added in just to clean it up a little bit, but I'm still getting the low end tone from the Paultec. Is kind of the idea there. On from there, a little bit more heavy EQ moves here with the Pro Q. Dynamic EQ down low, just kind of controlling the low end a little bit, and then looks like some pretty heavy controlling there at 138, and then again at 500. That's our bass drum sound. Pretty easy, no compression, at least on the individual track, because there didn't really need to be, because Again, Tyler played it so consistently. Very cool, very good. Let's move on. Snare drum. Similarly, this was a Sonar SQ2 snare drum Heavy Beach 14x6. Turn all the plugins off. Play it for you. This is our top snare mic. Actually, this plugin's on the snare bus. Here we go. Sounds kind of pretty non-eventful, but everything's there that I needed, pretty much. Actually, I'm sorry. I think this plugin's automated. Okay, here we go. I'm using this as a gate. All right. So there's our pretty raw sound recorded on the way in. Beyerdynamic M201. Just what I used. All right. Plugins back on. Let's go through some of this stuff. Okay, so I've got the SSL, Waves SSL. This is one of the few Waves plugins I use. I don't use a whole lot of Waves plugins anymore. Just acting as a gate. More so for the high end, taking some of the hi-hat out. And again, since Tyler played this so consistently, you can look at the differences between the, I don't know, peaks and valleys. I don't know. But it was really easy for me to gate this snare drum. So that's what I've got going on there. Another one of the few Waves plugins I use, the Kramer PIE. I like this a lot. It almost kind of does what my outboard DBX 160 does. It does something to the transient that really, I don't know, bumps it, punches it. So not even a whole lot. Just getting the very tops of those peaks. Turn it off. Just adding a little bit of smack, ever so slightly. After that, Pro Q, bumping the high end quite a bit. And again, this is easy to do because Tyler played so well balanced. And I'm going to keep hitting that home because, again, for folks out there who play the drums, who are never happy with their drum recordings, this is the answer. Just play really well balanced, and you will get much better drum recordings. Okay, I'm going to turn my snare bus plugins back on. So super smacky. That's cool. I do have a snare sample in here. It's super buried, and all this is doing, the Sonar drum was pretty muffled. The snare sample is just I didn't even work too hard. I just wanted something that sounded longer. So that's what we've got. And then I'm using the Shadow Hills and the Flood because it's just so intense. I'll turn it off. You'll hear exactly what it does. So I turn it on, and all of a sudden there's this massive, just transient spike. And I just buried it. It's pretty low in the mix, just kind of for length and a little bit of extra smack. But I probably could happily finish this mix without that sample and be totally cool. Very good. Snare bottom mic. Probably my Sennheiser 441. Turn the plugins off. You can hear what it sounds like. So pretty standard snare bottom sound. Nothing to go crazy over. Pro Q, slamming the high end. You'll see me use this plugin all the time. I pretty much only use this plugin just to mess with the phase. I don't know why. I can do that a lot of other ways, but something about that plugin is just what I use. And then Double Lock. So what Double Lock's doing is it's kind of darkening it back up after that big high end bump. But also, again, since they wanted something organic, I'm a drummer, so I'm well familiar with the sound of drums sitting behind the kit, and you end up getting a lot of snare wire talk. And sometimes if there's a drum recording and the snare is too clean and you kind of don't get that I don't know, people tend to hate on snare wire buzzing. I really like it because that to me is one of the things that you hear when you sit behind a kit. So Double Lock is kind of accentuating that with the snare drum, or I'm sorry, with the bass drum. All right. So bus plugins back on. I'll solo all the snare now. So that's our snare sound. I do have a little short snare drum reverb in here. It's the Relab LX480. I like this a lot for just adding a little bit of width. I'll mute it. Whoops. Come on. All right, I don't know why it's doing that. Okay, -6. Okay. So that's what it sounds like without it. Back in. Just like widens it up a little bit. Cool beans. All right. Overheads. So these aren't actual overheads. These are like shoulder mics, which I like doing. Gives me a much wider sound. This whole drum setup, like mic setup, I pretty much ripped straight from Steve Albini. I'm not claiming to have reinvented anything here. I modified it a little bit. I'll get there. But so essentially, these are two ribbon mics, the Rupert Neve ribbon mics, kind of behind Tyler's shoulders. I still measure them from center snare drum, but here's what those sound like. I'm gonna mute all my, or turn off all the plugins. So those are our overheads. I really like this setup for just like wide rock. It can sound really cool. The one thing about it is, oddly enough, sometimes it can sound too wide. So then, and this is something I've not seen Steve Albini do, but I'm sure he's done it. I also had a mono overhead. So then this is kind of my, so if I mute this, so these are just the stereo shoulder mics. If I unmute the mono overhead, you can just see it adds a little bit of center to the image. I think that mono overhead was an Audio-Technica 5047. That's probably what I used. All right, so some of the plugins on the overheads. Let's see what I'm doing here. I think I'm just using this for the compressor. I like the SSL compressor on these channel strips. It's just like super, I don't know. I hate to use punchy because that's such a lame, like, overused term, but it's pretty punchy. So I'm just kind of punching up the snare drum with that. Soothe, kind of controlling some of the high end when he gets a little louder. If I turn this off, just eases it up a little bit. It's a rock song. It's going to be played loud, so I'm trying not to fatigue anybody's ears, so that just kind of helps. UAD Studer at 7.5. Turn this on and off. Not a world of a difference, but enough of a difference for me to keep it and like it. And then Waves VEQ. Again, this is another, I know I say I don't use a whole lot of Waves plugins, but I really don't. But this is another one that I've come to like lately. And it looks like all I'm doing is, after I took some high end out, adding some high end back in. Back on. That's what I'm doing. Mono overhead, probably similar thing. Yep, just the SSL again for some compression, and then the Studer slow. All the overheads together. This is a trick I do if I don't want to over compress, like actually compress the drums. I'll send kick and snare to the overhead channel to duck the cymbals. Not a whole lot you can see, but basically this makes the cymbals duck in and out whenever the kick and the snares hit, and that kind of gives you the impression of big, super compressed drums without them actually being super compressed. So that's what I've got going on there. And then let's see here, Shadow Hills compressor. What I'm probably doing here, yeah. I'm just using this for the mono maker, up to, looks like 191 hertz. So if I take it off, it's just kind of making some of the low end more mono friendly, in case their song ever gets played in Target or a grocery store and it gets played over a single speaker It's a little bit more mono friendly. I don't actually really care about mono compatibility at the end of the day, but if I can get away with making it a little bit easier without sacrificing any of my creative artistry, I'll do it. Very cool, very good. Room mics. I've got 2 sets of room mics here. These are the SE VR1s that I'm using for the close room mics. Shadow Hills thing again, just a mono maker. Turn this off. Again, just making that low end a little bit friendlier. Also, you know, if they ever want to put this song on vinyl, who knows? It helps. You've seen me use this plugin before because I adore this plugin. The Noisemakers Binauralizer. Turn it off. Back on. Actually makes it sound like it's in a room. Pretty crazy. And then my last set of room mics are Soyuz 013 tube mics that I have further out, pointed at the floor. That's what these sound like. Turn the plugins off. Soothe, probably making it a little bit friendlier in the high end. Let's see if I can find a simple bashy part. Yeah, just easing up some of the high end. This is like mostly what I use Soothe for. People hate on Soothe because they say it's overused and yada yada yada. I really don't care. I like what it does. I like the way it soothes the high end. Compressor, I probably have the same thing going on, side chaining the snare drum and the kick to it. Nah, I don't even know what it's doing, but it's on. I've talked about it before. Sometimes I throw plugins on, and if it's not messing with anything, I'll just leave them there and not touch them. Pro Q, knocking out some high end. Turn it on and off, you can hear the difference it does. Back on. Okay, VEQ, looks like adding some mid-range. Yeah, just adding some tone. And then Shadow Hills, probably again, mono maker. Yeah. Turn it on. So that's the totality of all the mics I've got set up. Now we're back here. We will look at the drum bus. I'll take everything off the drum bus. Again, I mix into my bus, so when I pull this stuff off, it's probably going to sound a little bit wacky. Still sounds pretty good. Back on. A little beefier. All right. We'll turn everything off, and we'll go one by one. See here, Pro Q, doing some dynamic EQ. Making the bass drum bigger, making the snare drum a little bit brighter. Pulling out some lower mids. Turn this off. Oh yeah. It adds excitement. And that's fun for us. Alright. Got that moving. Studer, again. Probably got a little bit of saturation here, but again, just slower speed, darken it up a little bit. Smooth out the high end. Off. Back on. Very cool, very good. Pulsar Modular P455. You've seen me talk about this before. Love the way this thing boosts the high end. I also like the way the shelving cuts the low end, so I use this to cut low end a lot. Down at 30. I don't know if it's actually 30. I don't know what the width of that cut is, but I like it. Boosting 75 by 2, boosting 8K by 1, and then doing a low shelf cut at 30 by 2. Again, I don't know if these numbers are dB or if they're just numbers. I'm not sure. It's probably in the manual, and I can probably look it up, but I haven't. Turn it off. Back on. Cool. Sounding good. And Paultec. More low end. Off. Just kind of filling out the bottom end a little bit more. Cool. Got my outboard Shadow Hills moving. Brainworks plugin just for the recalls. One thing I do want to mention too. So this is the they did like a Shadow Hills revision, like analog, with the red lights. It responds a little bit differently than like the original Shadow Hills with the green lights. So the way that these are moving up here are actually different than what they're moving on my compressor, because the way this actual revision compresses is a little bit different. So don't pay much attention here. I don't pay attention to this at all. I just, again, use this over here for the recalls. But this is at least physically what my unit looks like. I'll turn the compressor off. On. Optical is moving quite a bit. Getting to like -3, -4. The discrete, I don't know, the needle's moving, but maybe by a half. I don't know why they call it discrete, because the discrete's actually not discrete. It's super noticeable. I don't know, you know? What's the deal with that? And then Gold Clip. Because I like it a lot. It's not even doing anything. I do have the gold knob and the alchemy knob cranked because I like the way that they color. This does something to the color that's like makes it grainy, but like in a good way. And then this kind of makes this like affects more of the top end and like makes the top end distort more in a harmonically rich way, kind of like how a tape machine would distort, even though I've already got like 1,000 tape plugins on this project, but that's fine. Turn it off. There is a volume bump, so try to ignore that. Cool. Let's see here. Oh, I thought for sure I'd even have some like parallel channels, but I don't even have any parallel effects channels on here. That's the drum sound, folks. It's actually pretty simple on this one. Definitely relied more on the recording side of things than it did on the back end, which is good. I strongly believe that the best mixing engineers are also some of the best recording engineers. So I try to emulate that. I'm sure I fall short quite a bit, but I do spend a lot of time trying to think through the mic process and the sounds I actually want. So yeah, that was kind of what this project mostly relied on. That's it, folks. Listen to the song. It's out now. I don't even know if I said the name of the song. The song's called Sweet Lies. And again, that's by the absolutely sweet, very friendly group of guys called Mild Mannered. And take a listen. Check them out. It's a good song. Pumped about it. See you next time. A ciao.